On the roof!
Hey, you know what? Marvel's really got their shit together. I wonder how DC's doing with its films. Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. So with what has become known as the DC Extended Universe, we have Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Man of Steel is a reboot of the entire Superman franchise. Superman movies have always been a mixed bag. They have some good ones and have some absolutely terrible ones. I can't really place this movie anywhere because it's so different from every other Superman movie. One of the main issues with the movie is its blatant disregard for story. When I watch this movie, I'm bored. It's mostly because the film doesn't have a story, but instead is just scene after scene of exposition that just happens to unnaturally lead to the next story beat. No character says or does anything that naturally moves the story along. Instead, all of it's cryptic dialogue to each other that makes it seem like robots are talking rather than people. Which is why when Clark and Lois kiss at the end of the film, it's funny, because they don't have a relationship at all. They just kiss because it's Lois and Clark. It just happens and it's weird. The scenes don't flow naturally because all they are is setup. For this 2.5-hour movie, it's bad when I feel that the story doesn't start until the hour 50 mark. That doesn't mean I don't feel like there are some great scenes. I'll admit I saw this movie for the midnight release because of this one scene in the trailer.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
That scene sold me because it was so different than every other superhero film. And there are many of those scenes that make it an interesting take on the superhero genre. But great scenes like that are always ruined by their next scene. Like the scene where we saw above where Clark feels the need to stay hidden from humanity is immediately followed up by a scene where Clark impales a guy's truck in the middle of an open parking lot. It's a funny gag, but it's so tonally different that it ruins the great scene before it, and this happens a lot. And even then, these great scenes aren't moving the story forward, they're usually just presenting more exposition. The one thing that I feel has no issues is the visual style and the effects. Honestly, the fighting and the action here, it's easily the best Dragon Ball Z movie I've ever seen. It's so large and exciting that it feels like this movie's making an action based on pure testosterone. But that is usually how this film goes. For every good thing, you get at least 2 terrible things. The movie at its best is okay, but asks you not to think about it at all. The instant an inkling of thought is put into the story, it all falls apart. This one gets a 4 out of 10. Now let's move on to the main event, shall we? Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice is a film that's been teased to us for years. It's been like forever since someone tried to do this, but it's finally been given to us. And God, if only it were done by someone better. Because Batman vs Superman is a long, annoying, incoherent mess of a movie. It just drags on and on and on. Almost every single problem I have with Man of Steel is exemplified in this movie. The only way I can really describe the first half of this movie is incoherent. Nothing happens in the actual scene except for exposition being shoved in your face. Again, I'll admit that this movie does have some pretty good moments. One of my favorite parts of the movie was seeing the destruction of Man of Steel from the perspective of Bruce Wayne. I felt it was interesting and was a good way to step up why Batman wanted to hate Superman. But the problem is that they set this up as one of the first things in the movie, so the rest of the movie feels like nothing's happening for Batman character-wise. His entire motivation and development begins and ends with, I'm gonna kill Superman. He does some cool things to set up for the fight, but none of it motivates his character at all. Henry Cavill again does a pretty good job as a grounded, realistic Superman, and even some of the characters I had a problem with in the last movie make it up in this one. But almost like Man of Steel, every good and great has a bad and terrible. I love Jesse Eisenberg. He has proven to be a great actor in the past, and when I watch him here, all I can think is, damn, he really didn't get it. He played Lex Luthor as if Heath Ledger's Joker were an actor playing Mark Zuckerberg. It just didn't work at all. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman should have been in another movie. She was kind of forced into the plot and helped make it all feel bloated. But once the action starts with Batman against Superman, the movie ramps up. All of it was so awesome and felt a lot more personal due to the smaller scale than the fight in Man of Steel. Even Wonder Woman makes the action just pure, unadulterated fun. But an awesome fight scene at the end does not a movie make. Remember when I said Man of Steel was all setup? Same goes for this movie. But instead of all of it paying off at the end of the movie, it's more a setup for every other film DC is making. It's like the movie didn't think it would be strong enough to work on its own merits, and instead it relies on teasing and setups for the extended universe. For the movie we've been waiting nearly a decade for, I hate that I have to walk out of it disappointed and bored rather than excited and satisfied. This gets a 4 out of 10.